Alright, picture this. You're scrolling through your phone, trying to make a call, send a text, or maybe even just load a web page. But nothing's happening. You see that little Rogers logo in the corner, and you think, wait, where am I? And why is this network acting up? Now, that's not just a hypothetical scenario for some people. It's a real question. Where exactly does the Rogers network reach, and which countries, beyond the obvious, might you find it popping up? We're going to dive deep today, not just into the straightforward answer, but into the nuances of network roaming agreements, the history of Rogers, and how that impacts its reach. Because let's be honest, just saying Canada doesn't tell the whole story, does it? So, let's start with the basics. Rogers Communications is a Canadian communications and media company. It's one of the big three telecommunications providers in Canada, alongside Bell and TELUS. So, naturally, the primary country where you'll find the Rogers network is Canada. That's a given. But here's where things get interesting. When we talk about using a network, we need to differentiate between a few things. Are we talking about directly owning and operating infrastructure? Or are we talking about users accessing the network through roaming agreements? That's the key here. Within Canada, Rogers owns and operates a vast nationwide wireless network. They have invested heavily in infrastructure, covering a significant portion of the population. This includes their 5G network, which they are continuously expanding. So, if you're in Canada and you see the Rogers logo on your phone, you're likely connecting to their own infrastructure. However, when you travel outside of Canada, things change. You're no longer connecting to Rogers' direct infrastructure. Instead, your phone connects to a local network, thanks to roaming agreements. These agreements are essential for providing international coverage to customers. Now, Rogers, like other major carriers, has roaming agreements with numerous telecommunications companies around the world. This means that if you're a Rogers customer traveling to, say, the United States, Europe, or Asia, your phone can connect to a local network and you can still make calls, send texts, and use data. But here's the catch: you're not using the Rogers network in the same way you are in Canada. You're using a foreign network that Rogers has a business agreement with. Your phone identifies as a Rogers customer, and the billing is handled through Rogers, but the actual signal is coming from another provider. So, to answer the initial question directly, the primary country that directly uses the Rogers network infrastructure is Canada. However, through roaming agreements, Rogers customers can access networks in virtually any country with a compatible cellular network. This brings us to the complexities of international roaming. How do these agreements work, and how do they impact the user experience? Roaming agreements are essentially business partnerships between telecommunications companies. They allow customers of one network to use the services of another network when they are outside their home coverage area. These agreements are negotiated based on various factors, including network compatibility, traffic volume, and pricing. When you roam, your phone automatically searches for available networks and connects to the one that has the strongest signal and is part of the roaming agreement with your home carrier. This process is usually seamless, but it can sometimes result in slower speeds or higher latency compared to your home network. The quality of your roaming experience depends on several factors, including the strength of the local network, the type of roaming agreement in place, and the capabilities of your phone. For example, if you're roaming on a 3G network, you'll likely experience slower speeds than if you're roaming on a 4G or 5G network. Also, roaming charges can vary significantly depending on the country you're visiting and the specific roaming plan you have with Rogers. It's crucial to understand your roaming plan and any associated charges before traveling internationally to avoid unexpected costs. Now, let's touch upon the history of Rogers and how it has shaped its network. Rogers Communications was founded by Ted Rogers in 1960. He was a pioneer in the Canadian telecommunications industry, and his vision was to provide Canadians with access to the latest communication technologies. Over the years, Rogers has grown through acquisitions and investments in infrastructure. They have expanded their services to include cable television, internet, and wireless communications. This growth has allowed them to build a robust network that covers a large portion of Canada. The company's focus on innovation has also played a significant role in its network development. Rogers was one of the first Canadian carriers to launch a 5G network, and they continue to invest in expanding their 5G coverage and improving network performance. The impact of Rogers' network extends beyond just providing communication services. It also plays a crucial role in supporting the Canadian economy. Businesses rely on Rogers' network for their operations, and individuals rely on it for staying connected with family and friends. In recent years, Rogers has faced some challenges, including network outages and customer service issues. These challenges have highlighted the importance of network reliability and the need for continuous investment in infrastructure. Despite these challenges, Rogers remains a major player in the Canadian telecommunications industry. Their network continues to be a vital part of the country's communication infrastructure. Now, let's circle back to the original question. Which countries use the Rogers network? We've established that Canada is the primary country where Rogers owns and operates its infrastructure. But through roaming agreements, Rogers customers can access networks in virtually any country with a compatible cellular network. So, while you won't find Rogers-branded cell towers popping up in, say, Japan or Brazil, you can still use your Rogers phone in those countries thanks to roaming agreements. When you travel, your phone essentially becomes a guest on the local network. This allows you to stay connected without having to purchase a local SIM card. However, it's important to be aware of roaming charges and to understand your roaming plan before you travel. In conclusion, the Rogers network is primarily a Canadian network. However, its reach extends far beyond Canada's borders through roaming agreements. These agreements allow Rogers customers to stay connected while traveling internationally. Understanding the difference between direct network ownership and roaming agreements is essential for understanding the true reach of the Rogers network. While Rogers doesn't own infrastructure in every country, its customers can access networks in virtually any country with a compatible cellular network. So, the next time you're traveling and you see the Rogers logo on your phone, remember that you're connecting to a local network through a roaming agreement. And always check your roaming plan to avoid any unexpected charges. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.